if you recognize this replay on the screen, then first of all, I have to commend your attentiveness and memory. But it's also probably coming from one of two sources. Feasibly both, but let's go with the likelier option, and that is that you checked out the video I made about perhaps the coolest... I'm sorry if you hear that noise in the background, by the way. My neighbors were drilling in the morning, and I thought they were done, but I guess not. Not the fun kind either, but yeah. Anyway, so... yeah, maybe you checked out this video about perhaps the coolest competitive Pokemon team I ever built. If you haven't, do check it out because it is a very cool team, and I am very fond of it. Certainly one of my favorites. So the reason, and the other option is that you were there watching Smogon Tour Finals live on November 1st, 2014, and you saw this team in action. It just burned itself into your brain from how cool and innovative and effective it was. So, the Gosling effect. Anyway, so the reason I have this replay on the screen to start us off is that it is an early piece of history regarding DPP Healing Wish being used in a serious context. So that is today's topic, of course. And when I say Healing Wish, I am obviously grouping Lunar Dance in with it, because I'm going to say Healing Wish, but I mean both of them because they are both moves that sacrifice the user to bring the recipient back to full health. It's like if you say roaring something out, but the Skarmory uses Whirlwind, it's like, okay. I know some people like to be pedantic about this kind of stuff, so I am just getting that out of the way. Lunar Dance, of course, has the major distinction of restoring the recipient's power points as well, which Healing Wish does not do, and that is the main reason why you would use Cresselia. Definitely in today's metagame when Latias is allowed again. So, yeah, that is significant, but we'll get into that later. So, the first thing we have to mention is that the reason why Healing Wish has flown under the radar in DPP for so long is that it does not work the same way as Gen 5 and onwards. So, in Gen 5, if you have a 1 HP Pokemon and Stealth Rock is up, and it's not a Magic Guard Pokemon, obviously, then you can still Healing Wish to that Pokemon. Because the way it works is that in Gen 5 and onwards, you Healing Wish to your 1 HP Pokemon. As it comes in, it goes back up to full health, and then it takes rocks. So, even if you have a 1 HP Dragonite and Stealth Rock is up, then you Healing Wish to Dragonite, it goes to the full, and then it goes to 75% from rocks, right? As opposed to DPP, where what happens is you get the Healing Wish or Lunar Dance off, and the Pokemon comes in, and then hazards are applied. So that makes it tougher to use in that if you have a Pokemon in hazards range, then you won't be able to Healing Wish it. So sometimes you have to keep Pokemon healthy enough to actually get to Healing Wish to them. So that is a challenge. But it can also be a major advantage, because if you take the Gen 5 Dragonite example, then yeah, okay, you get to Healing Wish it from 1%, but you also don't get multi-scale on it anymore. And I know we're talking Gen 4 examples, but there are major benefits to starting out from full health after the Healing Wish. If you can get Gyarados in from 26%, and it goes down to 1 HP. Oh, then it gets the Healing Wish, and then it's back to full. And dealing with a full health Gyarados, as anyone who's ever faced one will tell you, is a million times tougher than dealing with a 75% Gyarados. So, this replay actually is before they fixed it on Showdown. They just implemented Gen 5 mechanics and for a while in Gen 4, and just nobody cared about fixing it, even when there were lots of complaints. It was in, the mechanics were wrong throughout Smogon Tour, several Smogon Tours and SPL. They were just like, yeah, who cares about DPP? So that's why in this replay, when Cresselia uses Healing Wish here, Lunar Dance, the point is that I am Healing Wishing to a Gyarados here, so I want it to switch in, take rocks, and then go back to full with because that makes it a lot tougher to deal with, obviously. But in November of 2014, I don't even remember when they fixed it. It was like a year later or something. Then they still had the Gen 5 mechanics, so it actually takes the Lunar Dance and still takes rocks and goes down to 3/4 of its health, which was dumb. And we got into an argument about it here in the chat. Oh, it was so fun. Yeah, and they tried to tell me that that's how it works. And yeah, no, it is not. So, point being, this is there's another mechanic that I have to mention before I open this next hilarious replay. And some of you who know this replay know exactly where this is going and know how hilarious it is. But basically, another thing about DPP Healing Wish, and this one is tougher to get around, is that the turn doesn't end. Well, it's not that the turn ends, it's that you cannot be hit on the turn you Healing Wish. So in Gen 5, let's say you have Latios against Keldeo, right? And you use Healing Wish, and you go first, so Healing Wish is active, right? And then Keldeo will use Hydro Pump or whatever, right? But it fails. There's no target because Latios has used Healing Wish. And then afterwards, then you can go to your Dragonite or whatever, and you will go back up to full or 75%, depending on hazards or whatnot. You would not be hit by the Keldeo on that turn as you get Healing Wish to. Now in DPP, it actually, you have to work around the fact that the turn does not end, because let's say you had that same example, Latios against Infernape, because Keldeo doesn't exist, and you used Healing Wish with Latios, and you went to your Dragonite, and well, it would help that Dragonite would take Rock and then go back up to full, but it would also take banded close combat or whatever on that turn. So if you have a faster Healing Wish, then the move keeps going, the turn keeps going, and you will get attacked as you get Healing Wish to. Which, yeah, so that's why it's generally nice to pull off Healing Wishes on the Switch or as a slower Pokemon in DPP. So I genuinely like the fact that that Healing Wish works like this. It's harder to maneuver, but it requires a lot more nuance, I guess, which is one of my favorite things about Pokemon. Maybe not more nuance, but a different kind of nuance. It takes a lot of planning because you got to keep your hazards. You can't be as carefree with it. It's like, oh, I'll Healing Wish that later. It's like, no, once that dips into the hazards range, then you're done with that Pokemon. So you got to take care of that, and you have to make sure that your Pokemon switching in does not get blown up on the Switch. And I have a hilarious example of that in this DPP Uber's Invitational Tournament game. So note the Dialga at 3.2%, and the fact that there are rocks and spikes on the field. So it's dead to hazards. But unfortunately, poor FC, and I'm sorry to make an example out of him, does not know the mechanics. So he goes to Shaman, he Healing Wishes, and tries to Healing Wish to Dialga, but it dies to hazards first. Oh, but that's not all, because remember how so Dialga's dead, okay? So the next Pokemon coming in will get the Healing Wish. Okay, that's fine. Rayquaza comes in, rocks dig into it, but it goes back up to full because of the Healing Wish. That's cool, right? Oh, the turn isn't over. So Giratina, Draco Meteors, and the Rayquaza dies as it switches in, receiving the Healing Wish. So that was just that sums up every DPP Healing Wish, every specific mechanic, every mechanic specific to DPP. Good lord, my brain just froze there. Probably because I was just so overwhelmed. Let's watch that again in fast motion, in regular time. Yeah, so Groudon goes down. I mean, this game was probably going to be won by Finch anyway, but well, I guess maybe not. Either way, he was definitely at an advantage with the full health Giratina and the Bronzong. So yeah, so that is what you have to think about. So early uses of Healing Wish and Lunar Dance included, this team I had, which was then used by many other players in Smogon Tour and other stuff, and I remember they also really liked it. It's very strong because at the end of the day, the point of Healing Wish is the same, which is, oh, you have all these brutally powerful sweepers. What if you got to revive them? And actually, the first instance of Healing Wish, or technically it was Lunar Dance, that I remember coming across was in like 2009, where Austomatidos, yes, the Gen 3 player, who was also very good at Gen 4 when it was current, he had a team called Cresselia Push, I believe, and it had SD Luke and Calm Mind Suicune and DDT Tar, and it was still like a balanced team with like Scarfrachi and Gliscor. I think the Gliscor even had Sword Dance, so you had these 4 boosting Pokemon plus a Rock Scarfrachi to tie everything together, and then a Lunar Dance Cresselia. It's like, oh, well, now I have a second Luke or Suicune or T-Tar, or even SD Gliscor, and it had screens as well. So that was that team from 2009 inspired my more aggressive screens team. His was more balanced. So that was one example. That was 2014 when that first popped up. And I believe in 2013-ish, before that, then TV Raka, who actually shows up in our next replay, he had a team with I think it was like Specs Heatran, Rox Blissey. It was, that kind of subset. So the Spectran Rox Blissey thing has a long, rich history in this tier. It was like Spectran, Rox Blissey, Starmie, Spin Starmie, Bulky Starmie, and then CB Dragonite, and CB Flygon, and Scarfrachi, and the Scarfrachi had Healing Wish. And I forget what, because the game was played on Pokemon Online, so it only was preserved as a text log, and I don't know where to find it. But I remember he specifically had a game where his Scarfrachi pulled off a Healing Wish, which was completely unexpected, and it wound up reviving his Dragonite or something, which wound up winning the game. So that was another early instance. But that was, again, very, very rare, because in 2013, 2014, all the way until very late 2018, Latias was banned. Latias wasn't around. So your choices for Healing Wish were Jirachi, Shaman, and Cresselia. So, Jirachi, you could fit it on a Scarf set, but generally, you don't love sacrificing your Jirachi unless you have to, because it's so good. Not that you can't, of course, but Scarfrachi is already kind of pressed for moves as is, which is probably the biggest issue. And people weren't really experimenting with different kinds of Healing Wish Jirachis. Like, oh, let me use Rock's Healing Wish Jirachi, which, by the way, sounds really good. I would use that now. But, it wasn't really something that people were going... They were like, oh, I'll chuck it onto Scarf because Scarf Healing Wish Jirachi was popular in Gen 5. So that was really the only way people were thinking about it. So what wound up becoming more popular than Scarf Healing Wish Jirachi or Cresselia, because, again, if Scarfrachi has trouble fitting Healing Wish, but teams have trouble fitting Cresselia. It is super specific. That was not really used anywhere else besides that screens team of mine. So what wound up using it quite a bit was Shaman, because Scarf Shaman, as it turned out, was really, really good. And it was this great revenge killer. It was a great late game cleaner because it has such a powerful stab to finish things with. Seed Flare. It's got great bulk, so you're checking Dragon Dancers. You're checking pretty much everything. Like, oh, Infernape. Well, I'll pick it off with my Scarf Shaman. It's fat. It's got a great speed tier since it's faster than Scarf Rotom. It's not very afraid of Scarf Flygon in a one-on-one, whereas Scarf Flygon tie, whoever loses that is dead. But Scarf Shaman can lose the tie and still win. It's got a great bulk, and it's not afraid of, it's not getting hit. I mean, if it U-turns, but I'm getting lost in the minutia of that one-on-one matchup. Point being, Scarf Shaman was really, really good. And the thing about Shaman, of course, is that its move pool is famously not great. So, but that's exactly what works in its favor. You need Seed Flare, of course. You need Earth Power. Of course, you don't want to be walled by the Scarf Heatran you outrun, which is very popular at this time, and HP Ice because you are using it to revenge kill a DD Dragonite. So, what's your last slot? Well, you could run Leaf Storm, okay, but what if you ran Healing Wish? And that is exactly what some players started doing, and August's team with his Hyper Offense team with Aerodactyl lead, that is in this replay, then he used it to great effect. He used it in several battles, but this is the one I wanted to bring up because it's a very early use of it. It's March 22nd, 2015, so a couple months after that Crest Screens team, and I think this is around the time where Scarf Shaman was really starting to get taken seriously, and I give August a lot of credit for pushing it more into people's... pushing it more into the consciousness of the DPP playing player base at large. That was not beautifully phrased, but there you go. Anyway, so here we see an example of how good it can be because after Jirachi just rips through things. Then in comes, oh, there's the drill, sorry. Here comes Infernape, and it's going to get a very nasty crit on this Gyarados. So obviously Gyara is kind of out of commission, so he just goes right to his Scarf Shaman, since it's -1, and it's banded Ape, clearly, so Scarf Shaman will outrun it, and TV Raka gets out of there, and he Healing Wishes on the switch, no problem, so it doesn't matter that, I mean, if Infernape did stay in, then the Gyarados would be switching into a -2 CC, but still, full health better than none, so this is the something to keep in mind. You really want it on that switch, which is good because the good Healing Wish Pokemon force a lot of switches, or you want it slower, and you can make your Healing Wish Pokemon slower specifically for that purpose. So in comes Gyara again, and now is, full health, no hazards, just an absolute terror. And yeah, Gyara, what's Crobat going to do? Super Fang? It actually doesn't have room for Super Fang in that moveset unless it drops Brave Bird. Yeah, so yeah, this is exactly what it's supposed to do. So now he just gets another Gyarados, and then it goes really well. And yeah, August used this team again, I think, in World Cup Finals? Yeah, he did. I don't remember no, I don't think the Shaman used Healing Wish there, which is why I used this replay, where I knew it did. But yeah, so it's 2015. Now, the only Healing Wish uses are, the common ones are people using that Crest Screens team, or people using Scarf Shaman, usually on August's team, but there were some other teams that could, or team styles that could use it well, because Scarf Shaman was not just, a one Pokemon gimmick, whereas, that's why it was a lot more popular than Crest, because, yeah, Crest Screens is cool, but it only is either on that team, or, a style of team very, very much like it, so, I'm trying to cut down on my use of, it's such an instinct, so, yeah, don't replace it with Kev. So, yeah, Scarf Shaman is a lot more, you can fit it on a lot more teams. So, then, a few years go by, and oh man, I just remembered a Healing Wish replay I forgot to include. So I'm going to try and dig that up really quick, but that was a really cool one. So, now we're going to fast forward a bunch. So it's 2018, and Latias is freed, late 2018, and it sticks around. And I was very excited for this because now we have another Healing Wish user. And Latias is a great Pokemon, obviously. It's a big threat, but sometimes it can be walled. And if it is walled, as it tends to happen in a metagame dominated by Pokemon like T-Tari, Heatran, Clef, Jirachi, Metagross, Bronzong, or just not being able to break through a super bulky team on its own. Like, it would struggle to break through, like, a defensive Celebi one-on-one, for example. Well, in that case, then you don't really have a problem, because I want the music to keep playing, if it would be so kind. You don't really have a problem, because then you just Healing Wish to a teammate. So, let me see if I can find the replay this was in. I think it was this season? Yeah, so Latias comes back, and it is Scarf Latias actually takes off. When Gen 4 was current, then Scarf Latias was not really used very much because it gets kind of stuffed by a lot. It gets pursued very easily. Not that it still doesn't have the issue of pursuit, but it can bypass that potentially with... I don't think this is it. No. It can bypass it just by being more aware of it. You don't want to be using Scarf Latias early game if you can help it. But so that's just a way of adapting to what you're going to be facing. So, forgive me while I dig this other replay up. But you may have seen on the screen before... Nope, it wasn't this. Then you may have seen this forum post, which also has a Cresselia alongside a much more modern Clefable-style stall team. XCal posted about this, and there is a replay. It's very long, so we're not going to be going through the whole thing. But the idea is that in the more modern era, Cresselia still has a... There we go. That's it. Okay. So Cresselia still... Whoa, music. Why is... Not the music I want, either. Muted, please. There we go. Okay, perfect. So, and this is 2021, yeah. So, in order, then before we get to this replay from 2021, then Latias is already being used with Scarf and Healing Wish. It's Healing Wishing on occasion, but not in any way that is really making people think about spamming Healing Wish on it all the time, which I thought was a shame because I was a huge fan, and I tried to dig up some of the replays. I remembered having tournament games I had where I used Healing Wish with Latias, and it was really effective, but they are not currently available because Showdown is still trying to regain all those replays from when the servers went down. It wasn't backed up, so I have to manually restore them. Unfortunately, they were from like 2019, which was when people were getting used to Latias being in the metagame again. I was experimenting a lot with Scarf Healing Wish Latias, and it's great. Even Specs Healing Wish Latias. Latias can do a million things. You could run a defensive set with Dragon Pulse, Recover, Status, or Reflect or something, and then the last slot just chuck Healing Wish there in case you need it. It could do that feasibly, but obviously it's best on Scarf. And even Specs, because Specs, Draco, Surf, Trick, Filler. Dragon Pulse, fine. Sleep Talk, kind of eh. People were a lot more excited about that when it came out before they realized just how insanely exploitable it was. And then Healing Wish, even on Specs, you would think, oh, it's Specs, shouldn't it be wall breaking? Well, Draco, Surf, Trick, kind of all you need. With Healing Wish on it, then you have that ability to trick a wall that you might not be breaking through with Specs. It's very flexible. That's why Latias is such a good user of it. You have the great Specs Draco plus Surf combination against more offensive teams you don't need to trick against, so you're just an immediate threat. And then, against bulkier teams, you're going to use your trick, and then you're not going to be breaking through everything, so you pair it with sweepers that do need help in breaking through them. The opponent, because before they finish the job, they might get worn down, as they are wont to do, because the teams they're breaking through are throwing around a lot of chip damage, and they're not going to be taken down by just a couple attacks, so being able to reinforce that makes Latias just an incredible piece of support. And so people are using Healing Wish Latias more. It's not taking off or anything, but it's being experimented with. Then in 2021, we even see it as an option on Clefable, because it is alongside... Oh yeah, people were also using Healing Wish on Latias, and sometimes even Jirachi during this time, because people were trying to replicate those Gen 6 and 7 style Suicunes, the sub, Calm Mind, Protect. Obviously a lot tougher to pull off in a permanent rain generation, but definitely possible with when paired with rain support of your own to try and deal with sand. And then, of course, you have the ability to not just do that, but in case your first attempt doesn't go so well, then you can Healing Wish to the Suicune and give yourself, a second Sub-Protect Suicune. That's pretty nasty. Obviously, Suicune spamming Sub and Protect, it can run out of PP, so ideally you could put Cresselia alongside it. So you have 16 subs in Protect, and then you Lunar Dance to it, and then you have 16 subs in Protect again. But you can't always fit that. And just Healing Wish, as long as you're smart with your PP. The issue is going to be less PP more often, and it's more commonly going to be Suicune wearing itself down through subbing, even with Protect, or just from taking damage and whatnot. It's more commonly going to be that than it is going to be... Oh, what am I looking for? My brain is just freezing. I gotta eat. It's more commonly going to be being low on health than it is going to be running low on PP, which is why Healing Wishing with Healing Wishing with something like Latias or Clefable is going to be an option. Because, now we're realizing, we have another viable Healing Wisher in the tier. And people were experimenting with Healing Wish Blissey on some, wacky offense teams when Gen 4 in like 2013-ish, but it was never used seriously. I think you still could use Healing Wish Blissey. In fact, I think a couple teams that use Blissey Clef together, they have used Healing Wish Blissey for, similar purposes. Oh, my Machamp, my Breloom got worn down. Oh, well, look at that. My Blissey got lasted a million turns. My Blissey's running low on fuel. It's not going to do much. Oh, look, now that my Blissey's no longer useful, it can make sure my Machamp is useful. The trick to balancing good Healing Wish use is making sure that you don't also need your Latias or your Blissey or your Jirachi or your Clefable or, well, not Shaman so much anymore, it kind of got knocked down. Or Cress. Cress has that issue less because Cress does less. But these other Pokemon like Latias, obviously you don't want to just immediately sacrifice your Latias if you can help it. because Latias is a great Pokemon. But so it is a lot of reading risk versus reward, and that's why I like it so much. Because if you see Latias used for Healing Wish in Gen 6, for example, Latias is not really doing much. It's switching into Keldeo and Mega Charizard Y and making sure you don't automatically lose to them. That's great, obviously, but you also don't really need it for much else. So if you have to Healing Wish your Latias early, then that's not such a big deal. Whereas if you Healing Wish your Latias early in DPP, you better be getting something out of it because Latias is really good. So I think that kind of I think that is a very skilled kind of thing to promote. So forgive my lack of. God, I can't even think of the word I'm thinking. It's not verbosity, because I'm not being very verbose. It's I'm not being very eloquent today. Anyway, look at that. Magma Storm just dropped the Quillfish. Anyway, so, yeah, I think I've made that point. But there's several things to consider in addition to just the mechanics of it all, but also the fact that you really have to make sure that when that Healing Wish goes off, that you don't need Latias, and you are really making the most out of what you are Healing Wishing too, because sometimes it is, if you don't plan it far ahead enough, then you will be in this kind of catch-22 where you are relying on Latias to Healing Wish your Suicune or your whatever, your Jirachi, your Machamp, but you also need Latias at the same time. So this is something to consider in the team builder, and it's something to consider in the battle. It really needs a lot of foresight. So, there was a... Yeah, I just like those turns where the Rotom Rain dances and the Heatran Sunny Days right after. This is a really cool team. I think Osgood built it. Anyway, so another cool thing is that in DPP, it is very possible to run 2 different Pokemon that run Healing Wish, and so that kind of balances it out. Oh, I don't need to run Healing Wish on my Latias because on this team I can fit it on my Jirachi. Or, depending on your team, you can run it on both. And that's something I think is really cool because that gives you a lot more flexibility. Because, oh, I don't want to Healing Wish my Latias in this game because I need my Latias, so I'll Healing Wish with my Jirachi instead. Movesets are flexible enough to where this isn't really, the worst thing in the world. You're not really impeding your ability to take on other things. So, we've got 2 Sub-Protect Suicunes in this battle. How gnarly. Yeah, so Healing Wishing is... I'm a big fan of how it's become more popular because it was overlooked because it doesn't have the Gen 5 mechanics, but now it's really brought a new dimension to the metagame. The fact that it has become as popular as it is. Oh, this is just sub Ice Beam, not Sub Protect. Never mind. Yeah. So now it Healing Wishes to the Latias there. Beautiful. Not a very conventional use of Healing Wish there, but hey, it definitely gets the job done. So, because now T-Spike, so Suicune is checkmated, and that's the ball game. So, now that's Healing Wish Clef, in addition to Healing Wish Latias being popular, slotting it on Jirachi, feasibly Blissey. So now I want to mention this team of Excals, and early, we know how Lunar Dance restores PP as well, so the basic tenet of this Cresselia stall team, which he then gave to Hayburner in this next replay, which we are... yeah, it's over 300 turns long, so we're not going to be here for the whole thing, even on hyperfast mode, unless I'm underestimating how fast hyperfast goes. But the basic idea is that in a lot of modern stall teams do not really have good ways of dealing with Clefable beyond their own Clefable. That's kind of the name of the game, dealing with opposing Clef, because it just shuts down so much, so hard. And... what you wind up doing usually is just kind of, even if other Pokemon get involved, it does generally come down to some sort of Clef versus Clef, right? So if you are able to get an edge with your own Clef, then that's very helpful. But generally, at the end of the 2 Clefs, Seismic Tossing and Soft Boiling against each other in some sort of RBY Chansey-esque war, then the end result is usually that they're very, very low on PP and pretty much... won't be able to do much else against the rest. So, obviously this is taken advantage of by other Pokemon. But the advantage that this brings, yeah, you don't have Latias over Cresselia, and Latias is generally a much better defensive Pokemon, but Cresselia has its own defensive uses, for sure, most notably a lack of an Ice or Dragon weakness, especially Dragon. So that helps you out against very many hyper-offensive styles, or just offensive styles in general, not just setup stuff. And what it does is, at the end of the game, after you have exhausted your Clefable's seismic tosses and knockoffs, and you can't heal anymore, and at the end of the game, first of all, Cresselia also eats up a lot of PP from the opponent because it spams rest and just, sleeps, and has a huge HP stat, so it takes a lot of seismic tosses to wear it down as well. So there's that. And it can also fish for freezes with Ice Beam, because you are really committing to long, long games here. But at basically the end, the goal here is, once you have exhausted the opponent's Clefable, then you have the music playing, if would be so. I don't know. My probably the drilling upstairs is messing with the internet or something. I just made that up. Anyway, once you have exhausted the opposing Clefable's PP, you've also exhausted your own Clefable's PP. So the opponent's like, okay, well, my Clef is basically done, but so is theirs, so it's okay. And then you Lunar Dance to your Clefable and you restore all its PP, and then you have, a fresh Clef. Minus lefties, but hey, you have a fresh Clef to finish off the opponent's team. Especially nasty with Encore, because that really forces switches and forces damage as a result. So, yeah, that is the point of Lunar Dance Cress in the modern age. So those are the different kinds of uses we have regarding these things. In this game, Crest doesn't even get to pull the Healing Wish off because it just winds up resting instead. But we skip to the end of the game, turn 380 or whatever it was. And we see that the Clef is basically, out of commission. So what could have been done is, 0 knockoffs, 1 seismic toss, 2 soft boileds, 4 heal bells. It has heal bell on this team to wake up the Crest, which is resting. But yeah, even Crest, 16 Ice Beams, lots of rescues, and all it needs is that 1 Lunar Dance, and this Clef could have come back and, finished the job. So that's the idea. There's the music. So now we've gone over that, and now I want to go over my favorite style of Healing Wishing, which is kind of an extension of the offensive styles from earlier. Not that Healing Wish can't be used effectively on, bulky balance teams. I think it's very good and very underexplored at that. But I was inspired by this team I was working on with my buddy Jirachi. It was his idea, and he was... Excuse me. Yeah, this is just a very strong offense team that really brings the pain. And what's really nice about it is that this kind of offense team generally has... You have to be very careful with it to not run out of steam against stall very quickly. Stall teams are not going to sit back and try to wall you forever. They generally choke you out, and then they wall you, So that's what makes them threatening. Now, even with Healing Wish, you don't have the luxury of just, sitting around and then, fixing it all with that strategy. But it helps a lot. So that is, it just giving you a second, anything, basically. You don't always have to Healing Wish to your Gyarados or your Setup Sweeper. Something as simple as Healing Wishing to a Metagross can be really, really scary. Just the more the game goes on, and the more opportunities you have to break through them with, damage or switches or whatever, then that improves your odds against defense, a ton. So, ZF spelled favorite the English way, or the quote-unquote correct way, which is fine, but he's American, and I really, really hate when Americans do that. It's just wrong. It's like when they insist on calling soccer football. In an American accent, it's just soccer. I know it's football. I know it makes more sense than American football, but if you have the American, you can't do it. Anyway, that little nitpick of mine aside, this kind of team that Jirachi is using, he doesn't even use Healing Wish in this game, but I think he had it. Yeah, no, I think he did. But that's the whole point, that when you have, Metagross or whatever it is. Oh, no, he took Healing Wish off in favor of Dragon Pulse. Yeah, I remember, because I was watching the game. I was like, oh, if he Healing Wishes, then, he's set. But then he had Dragon Pulse. That was, yeah, so it was I remembered it the opposite way. So, yeah, that was inspiring me to build a bunch of similar offense teams, because I really liked these styles of offensive teams before, before Latias was even unbanned, and with Latias returning, I really enjoyed the possibilities they had, because they got so much better when you had the possibility of not just its defensive typing and offensive capabilities as well, of course, because it is a threat above all else. But it's the possibility of Healing Wishing to your own threats and making them better and better. So, Yeah, this game winds with, there's the DD Tar, and you Healing Wish that, and yeah, what a Pokemon. Okay, so this video will end with this replay. We're not really focusing on the replay here because I don't think I wind up using Healing Wish at all. But this is I made a lot of offense teams in this style. There's so much flexibility in them. I love them. And the idea is, I think this was inspired also by a team that Jirachi made. I think he had Healing Wish. I forget if he had the double Healing Wish or not. I think he did. But I remember the basic idea is that this Jirachi has T-Wave, Iron Head, Fire Punch, Healing Wish, and there's also Latias. It's just so good. So there is double Healing Wish here. And that is very important because, oh, and the trick for messing with defense, God, it's beautiful. So the trick is that, not just the trick, but you have 2 Healing Wishes alongside a DD Life Orb Gyarados, because yeah, I mean, the longevity issues with Life Orb, rocks and sand are just nightmarish, but with 2 Healing Wishes, then it helps in that regard a lot, because you can switch Gyara out. That's the thing, a lot of the time on Hyper Offense teams that don't have longevity, not that Hyper Offense teams can afford longevity very much, of course, but when you are cornered in those situations where you just have to throw away your Gyarados because it won't be useful later, and you can't really switch into anything else, now you can switch your Gyarados out as long as it's outside of Rock's range, and still get it back and do useful things later. That's what's so great about it. It's wonderful, and yeah, and you get more Gyarados, obviously, but you also get more stronger Gyarados when you are able to have this flexibility regarding Life Orb, or even letting something like Machamp get status. And it's a lot more capable in this way. It's Lumberry here, but like if you are in a one-on-one against a Restalk Rotom, you eat you eat Will-O-Wisp on the Lum and you hit it really hard. Then you eat another Will-O-Wisp and you take it out with Sand, and it's fine because you can just Healing Wish the Machamp later. And I started running Bulk Up on these kinds of Machamps later on because that setup presence lets you really brutalize your way through Skarmory, and because when you have that setup opportunity, whether it's Bulk Up Machamp or DD Gyara or Calm Mind Jirachi, which I also started using a lot of, then it's really, really good in that regard. It would work well for some sort of Metagross as well, DD Tar. So it's the flexibility afforded by Healing Wish. I really don't think these teams work nearly as well without Healing Wish. I mean, they'd still work, but you'd have to do a lot, like a lot, to make up for the loss of flexibility that Healing Wish gives you. And you would be very limited in your options as a result. So yeah, I really liked. And you could even run leftovers on such a Machamp, because if you're running Bulk Up, or even without Bulk Up, honestly, because no longer, and that makes you even better in terms of longevity, because not just are you being supported by Healing Wish, but you are less forced to Healing Wish by just passive chip damage existing in Sand, existing in such a metagame so full of passive damage, because you have lefties to counteract that. And why wouldn't you run lefties? Well, because Lum is important for status, right? Yeah, but with Healing Wish, you are less in need of that, So obviously, teammates like Lump Pursuit T-Tar can also help with things like this. But even just Latias absorbing the Will-O-Wisp, scaring it out, and then you double switch to Machamp on the Clef or T-Tar, and now you're in business again. Latias just does so much. This is half Latias appreciation. So yeah, that's Healing Wish in a nutshell. So I double Healing Wish here, and these kinds of teams, I think they're great. So that's pretty much everything. I think I covered it all. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and yeah, so thank you so much for watching / listening. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. And I hope you're inspired to get out there and make some new uses of Healing Wish. I'm sure it's just, there's so much out there in terms of possibility. I'll stop myself there. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one.